The global brand, known as the Sussex Imperium, did not begin its current decline in a courtroom or during an explosive television interview. Instead, it started with a seemingly harmless 30-second digital action on a Tuesday afternoon in April. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, posted a single image to her Instagram stories, an official diplomatic letter of gratitude from Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister Julius Virenko. To the casual observer, it appeared to be standard celebrity diplomacy, harmless, modern, and consistent with contemporary humanitarian efforts. However, to the constitutional experts safeguarding the British monarchy at Buckingham Palace, the post was a deliberate and highly damaging breach of a legally binding agreement. The letter was shared completely unedited and uncropped, without any clarifying caption or disclaimer. Prominently displayed at the top of the official letterhead were the two words that Meghan had explicitly agreed to relinquish 6 years earlier. Your Royal Highness. This was no innocent oversight by an unmonitored social media team. It represented a direct public violation of the 2020 Sandringham Agreement, the exit deal personally, negotiated with the late Queen Elizabeth II. The terms of that agreement were clear and uncompromising. While Harry and Meghan could retain their titles as courtesy styles, they were permanently prohibited from using His/Her Royal Highness, HRH, in any public, commercial or professional context. By publishing the unaltered Ukrainian letter, Meghan not only invoked the forbidden honorific but actively leveraged it as a central asset for her personal brand. What transforms this incident from mere tabloid fodder into a serious corporate and constitutional crisis is the specific platform on which it appeared. The Instagram account used for the post is the very same one being repositioned to launch and promote Meghan's newly rebranded lifestyle empire. International brand strategists, intellectual property lawyers, and royal historians have reached the same stark conclusion. This was not an error. It was a calculated, desperate move to artificially reintroduce royal prestige into a commercial brand that is struggling due to a critical lack of capital and public trust. The broader geopolitical and commercial environment surrounding the Sussexes has deteriorated sharply over the past 2 years. The strategic use of Your Royal Highness on the As Ever platform openly acknowledges an inconvenient truth. Without the sovereign mystique and authority of the British Crown, the Sussex commercial venture is essentially empty. It does not truly sell jam, lifestyle products, or media content. It sells proximity to the British throne. As those doors close permanently, the operation in Montecito appears to be turning to increasingly desperate tactics to remain viable. The institutional response from London was swift, cold, and notably free of the emotional drama the Sussexes have often relied upon to drive their media narratives. This is no longer a family dispute about hurt feelings, seating arrangements, or bridesmaid dress fittings. It has become an elite corporate conflict waged through legal contracts, enforcement, and strategic isolation. At the heart of the palace's anger is Prince William, the Prince of Wales. For years, he has witnessed the family's institutional heritage being used as commercial collateral from California. This latest breach crossed a decisive line. A source close to the Prince of Wales delivered a blunt and unprecedented rebuke to the Daily Beast. You'd have to be an idiot to believe she didn't know exactly what she was doing. To William, Meghan's deliberate use of the HRH title is a profound insult to the legacy of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, who crafted the Sandringham boundaries specifically to shield the crown from commercial exploitation. He does not see this as a simple social media slip, but as an act of legal parasitism, a systematic effort to drain prestige, credibility, and authority from a 1,000-year-old institution to generate personal wealth in Hollywood, while simultaneously undermining the very system that sustains them. Unlike earlier chapters of this royal saga, William is refusing to participate in a public PR battle. He recognizes that conflict is the lifeblood of the Sussex brand. Without a reactive palace to oppose, their narrative loses power. Instead, he has begun a quiet but decisive legal and institutional counteroffensive. Prince William has formally directed senior royal legal advisers to compile a comprehensive, ironclad evidentiary dossier cataloging every instance in which Meghan Markle has deliberately violated the 2020 Sandringham Agreement for commercial gain. The scope of this dossier is vast and painstakingly thorough. It includes the widely publicized Netflix moment in which Meghan corrected actress Mindy Kaling, pointedly declaring herself Sussex rather than Meghan Markle while appearing on a globally streamed commercial platform. It also documents the curated gift baskets of homemade jam sent to high-profile influencers such as Jamie King, accompanied by stationery explicitly featuring the prohibited HRH styling. The dossier reaches its climax with Meghan's April 2026 Instagram post from Ukraine, which establishes a clear, undeniable, and legally actionable pattern of conduct. William is playing a patient, long-term constitutional strategy. He is not interested in immediate superficial responses that Montecito's public relations team could easily portray as institutional bullying. Instead, he is methodically laying the legal and constitutional groundwork for the moment he ascends the throne. The ultimate goal is to issue a formal letters patent, a sovereign decree from the monarch that permanently strips Meghan Markle of her courtesy title as Duchess of Sussex, with no avenue for judicial appeal or public negotiation. By leveraging the unedited letter from Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister Spyridhenko to enhance her commercial profile, Meghan inadvertently provided Prince William with the precise evidence needed to enact her permanent constitutional exile. As the financial foundations of Archewell and As Ever continue to crumble amid severed corporate partnerships and industry ostracism, this latest misstep has effectively sealed her position within the royal hierarchy. The trap has been set. The evidence has been meticulously assembled. The British monarchy is now advancing with the slow, formidable, and inexorable momentum of an institution that has endured centuries of existential challenges by simply outlasting its opponents. The cold resolve emanating from Adelaide Cottage is not fueled by personal grievance or sibling rivalry. Prince William has long distanced himself emotionally from his brother's betrayal. His approach is now entirely sovereign, institutional, and clinical. The future king views the crown not as a family enterprise open to squabbling, but as a sacred constitutional trust he is duty-bound by law and birth to protect. When Meghan Markle chose to broadcast the forbidden HRH honorific on a commercial platform, she elevated herself from a figure of familial estrangement to an active institutional threat. William's strategy represents a significant evolution in royal rules of engagement. For years, the palace followed the traditional never complain, never explain approach, a stance that often left it exposed to the Sussexes' fast-moving and aggressive PR operation. William has recognized that, in today's media environment, prolonged silence can be interpreted as weakness or tacit approval. His response to the April Instagram violation was a textbook example of controlled asymmetric warfare, combining deniable public condemnation with meticulous behind-the-scenes legal preparation. The pointed quote delivered to the Daily Beast by a senior source close to William was a deliberate warning shot. By dismissing the idea that Meghan acted accidentally as a delusion, his team stripped away the plausible deniability she has long relied upon. The unusually sharp, unroyal language was chosen to send a clear message to Hollywood executives and global brand partners. The future king regards Meghan's commercial tactics not as harmless celebrity branding, but as deliberate deception. At its core, William's perspective is grounded in constitutional principle and the preservation of the monarchy's integrity. He sees the British crown as an indivisible institution. One is either fully subject to its duties, sacrifices, and boundaries, or entirely outside it. The Sussexes attempt to invent a lucrative hybrid model, exploiting royal titles and glamour for American commercial profit while rejecting public service obligations, is something William regards as legal parasitism. To William, Queen Elizabeth II offered the couple a generous and dignified exit in 2020. They were allowed to retain their Duke and Duchess titles as courtesy titles and depart with their personal dignity preserved. The single non-negotiable condition was that the HRH style, representing the sovereign's executive authority, must never be used for commercial purposes. By deliberately ignoring this boundary, struggling to sustain her lifestyle brand, Meghan did more than simply violate a gentleman's agreement. In Prince William's eyes, she committed an act of institutional vandalism against the legacy of the very matriarch who had once shielded them, rather than being drawn into a chaotic public legal fight that would dominate headlines and give the Sussexes the media attention they desperately need to remain relevant. William has opted for a more calculated approach. He is quietly weaponizing the slow, methodical machinery of the state. Senior constitutional lawyers and historical experts within the Duchy of Cornwall and the broader royal household have been tasked with building a comprehensive legal dossier. Internally, this is referred to as the definitive ledger of commercial non-compliance. The strategy is deliberate and precise. William's team is not seeking immediate, politically messy intervention from Parliament, which could prove unpredictable and open to public scrutiny. Instead, they are meticulously assembling an ironclad body of evidence documenting years of systematic breaches of the Sandringham Agreement. Every instance in which Meghan exploits her royal identity for commercial gain, whether through Netflix projects, strategically gifting branded merchandise to high-profile American celebrities, or similar ventures, is carefully logged, verified, and added to the file. The ultimate objective is absolute and irreversible: total constitutional erasure. William is laying the groundwork so that the moment the crown is placed upon his head, he can exercise sovereign prerogative through letters patent to strip Meghan Markle of her Duchess title. Since the title was granted solely as a courtesy through marriage, a targeted royal decree can remove it without the need for a lengthy parliamentary process. By using Ukrainian diplomatic correspondence to advance her commercial interests, Meghan has handed the future king the final, irrefutable evidence of bad faith needed to justify her permanent exclusion from the institution. While Prince William prepares this long-term constitutional strategy, King Charles III has already implemented an immediate, discreet, yet highly effective financial blockade from Buckingham Palace. Rather than engaging in emotional public drama, the king is targeting the Sussexes' commercial operations at their most vulnerable point: their business relationships with corporate America. In early May 2026, the king issued a sweeping internal royal decree that fundamentally changes how the British monarchy engages with global commerce. This new directive establishes a strict policy of non-affiliation. Under this framework, the Crown reserves the right to issue formal, legally binding notifications to any corporation, streaming platform, or investor, clarifying that the commercial activities of non-working royals carry no institutional endorsement, constitutional validity, or connection to the House of Windsor. This creates a financial vacuum. By formally disavowing any contract that improperly leverages royal titles or honorifics, King Charles has introduced significant legal risk for companies doing business with Meghan Markle, all without stepping into a courtroom or engaging in a public relations. Corporate lawyers in Los Angeles and New York now recognize the serious threat this poses to the Sussex business model. In contract law terms, it creates the risk of material misrepresentation. When Netflix, Spotify, or major publishers sign lucrative deals with the Duchess of Sussex, they are not simply buying celebrity. They are investing in the implicit prestige, exclusivity, and sovereign mystique of the British royal family. The King's decree strips away that mystique. leaving partners with a contract tied only to an ordinary private individual. This has rendered the Sussex brand commercially toxic. At the same time, Buckingham Palace has maintained a policy of absolute silence regarding Meghan's recent social media activities. This strategic non-response serves a clear purpose. The Sussex's public relations approach has long depended on provoking a reaction from the palace, which they then frame as institutional bullying or cruelty. By refusing to issue statements, rebuttals, or acknowledgements, the king has denied them the oxygen they need. Without a royal counterpunch to exploit, Meghan's provocations echo into silence, undermining her ability to portray herself as a victim of a cold and inflexible monarchy. The establishment's efforts fell completely flat in the eyes of the public. The king's response was a masterclass in regal detachment, a clear demonstration that the British state apparatus regards the Sussex's commercial ambitions as little more than a minor nuisance, rather than a serious rival. Through a strategy of legal separation and media isolation, the British monarchy has effectively shifted the balance of power. Meghan Markle now finds herself forced to compete unaided in the brutal American marketplace, stripped of the royal connection that once propped up her global relevance. The calculated isolation orchestrated by Buckingham Palace, combined with Prince William's precise legal maneuvering, has triggered a cascading collapse across the Sussex's commercial ventures in California. By May 2026, the structural foundations of their financial empire had suffered devastating, largely irreversible damage. The prominent use of the disputed HR title on Instagram was not a bold act of defiance, but a desperate rearguard maneuver intended to conceal the rapid erosion of their Hollywood viability. The most damaging blow came from Netflix, the very platform that had once elevated them to global media status, with a landmark $100 million deal in 2020. In March 2026, the streaming giant quietly terminated its equity partnership with Meghan's lifestyle and corporate brand, while Archwell Productions secured a limited, scaled-back first-look deal to develop conventional narrative content, including the recently announced Afghanistan war film No Way Out. The high-value corporate financing that had directly supported Meghan's personal lifestyle ambitions was abruptly cut off. Industry insiders described Netflix's internal sentiment as one of deep exhaustion. The platform had grown tired of pouring millions into a lifestyle brand that delivered minimal output while consistently generating negative publicity and institutional friction. The cancellation of her much-hyped lifestyle series with Love, Meghan, which executives reportedly dismissed as overly curated, uninspired, and out of touch with today's audience, delivered the final industry verdict. The steady flow of unconditional upfront capital that had sustained the illusion of their independent Hollywood success had officially run dry. This professional demotion has forced a painful confrontation with their track record of commercial underperformance. The ghosts of the Spotify debacle have returned to haunt Montecito, serving as a cautionary tale for Wall Street and Silicon Valley that the Sussexes have repeatedly failed to deliver on their multi-million-dollar promises. Spotify executive Bill Simmons' public labeling of the couple as fucking grifters, after they delivered just one underwhelming podcast season, has now solidified into a lasting industry consensus. Adding to the setbacks, in April 2026, publishing giant Penguin Random House allowed their high-profile $20 million multi-book deal to expire quietly without renewal. Sources inside the industry revealed that the publisher felt financially burned by the Sussex brand's declining returns and recognized growing public fatigue with their repetitive grievance narratives. Compounding these corporate failures was a self-inflicted public relations disaster in mid-May 2026, on the eve of her high-profile appearance at a World Health Organization event addressing the psychological impact of social media on children. Meghan posted a carefully staged photograph on her social channels. The image showcased her newly renovated, ultra-luxurious walk-in wardrobe filled with designer clothing, haute couture gowns, and bespoke jewelry reportedly worth over $250,000. In the background, her 4-year-old daughter, Princess Lilibet, was prominently positioned as a visual prop. The backlash was swift, brutal, and near universal. Prominent commentators, including Daily Beast editor Tom Sykes, condemned the post as a stunning display of hypocrisy and tone deafness. Parading a $250,000 wardrobe while positioning herself as a champion for children harmed by social media's superficiality was widely viewed as a fatal misstep. The incident destroyed what remained of Meghan's credibility in philanthropic circles and exposed her brand as driven more by vanity than genuine advocacy. This succession of corporate exits and public relations disasters has left the Sussex brand stripped of its protective shield, exposed, underfunded, and rapidly losing momentum. As the American entertainment industry's confidence in the Sussexes continues to erode, the financial foundations of the Montecito empire are fracturing under mounting corporate rejections and repeated public relations failures. Behind the scenes, a far deeper and more personal crisis is now unfolding within the walls of their California residence. The year 2026 has marked a striking and unmistakable change in the working dynamic between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. For the first time since their high-profile exit from the United Kingdom, the once unbreakable united front that defined the Sussex brand has visibly dissolved, giving way to a pattern of strategic separation that has drawn the attention of seasoned royal watchers and Hollywood insiders alike. Throughout April and the first half of May 2026, Prince Harry undertook a series of prominent international engagements entirely on his own. He traveled to the United Kingdom to advance his flagship philanthropic projects, then continued with an extended solo tour of Southern Africa, where he focused on wildlife conservation efforts and veteran support initiatives. Unlike their earlier joint global tours, carefully staged to highlight their partnership, Harry completed these trips alone. There were no joint press appearances, synchronized statements, or shared public moments. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle remained in California, largely confined to their Montecito estate as she scrambled to rescue what remains of her lifestyle brand. This growing geographic and professional divide has fueled intense speculation about the stability of their marriage. In media and royal circles, analysts are increasingly viewing the situation through the lens of a well-documented behavioral pattern long associated with Meghan, the phenomenon widely referred to as being marled. For more than a decade, the term has described a ruthless, clinical process in which Meghan Markle abruptly and completely cuts off individuals who once played significant roles in her life the moment they cease to offer strategic value or commercial benefit. The historical record of this pattern is extensive and consistent. Among the most notable cases was Naki Pretty, her closest friend since the age of 2 at the Little Red Schoolhouse in Los Angeles. The two women shared decades of family milestones, international vacations, and personal challenges. Pretty even served as maid of honor at Meghan's first wedding to producer Trevor Engelson. Yet, when that marriage ended and Meghan's social ascent accelerated, the connection was terminated with clinical detachment. There was no farewell conversation, no explanatory call, and no invitation to the 2018 royal wedding. Pretty was simply erased. A similar fate befell Jessica Mulroney, the Canadian socialite who acted as Meghan's primary stylist, media advisor, and closest confidant during her transition into royal life. Mulroney and her children played prominent roles at the royal wedding and accompanied the Duchess on official tours. However, when Mulroney became entangled in a public relations controversy in 2020, Meghan immediately severed all contact. Insiders noted that the incident served as a convenient pretext to discard a relationship that had shifted from asset to liability. For years, the public assumed Prince Harry would be exempt from this pattern. As the ultimate prize, the prince whose royal status delivered global fame, titles, and lucrative contracts, many believed he was untouchable. But by May 2026, with major contracts expiring, streaming platforms withdrawing support, and Prince William reportedly preparing legal steps to challenge her use of the Duchess title, the power balance within the marriage has shifted dramatically. The central question now echoing through Buckingham Palace and Hollywood boardrooms is whether the Marlet effect is beginning to reverse direction. Royal analysts fall into two main camps. One group believes Prince Harry is the one actively creating distance, having watched the destruction of his family ties, the depletion of his inheritance, and the collapse of his public reputation under his wife's aggressive commercial approach. Harry is seen as executing a strategic withdrawal. His solo tours to Africa and the United Kingdom are interpreted as, in a desperate bid to reconnect with his authentic pre-Meghan identity, Prince Harry appears to be returning to the pure humanitarian and military roots that once made him one of the most beloved figures in modern British history. Others, however, offer a far darker and more clinical interpretation. They believe Meghan is preparing to activate the shutdown mechanism on Harry himself. According to this view, Meghan sees the world purely through the lens of commercial utility. Should Prince William's legal efforts succeed, and King Charles III's non-affiliation decrees render the Sussex brand unprofitable in the American market, Harry's value in her corporate calculus would drop to zero. Stripped of his titles and with his capital frozen, he would cease to be a valuable global asset and instead become a symbol of failed ambition and permanent exile. As Harry continues his solo travels across Africa, the silence from Montecito is deafening. The growing separation has laid bare the central vulnerability of their entire enterprise. Their alliance was built on mutual amplification, a royal prince lending credibility to a Hollywood actress, and a modern actress granting global relevance to a historic prince. With that amplification now gone, replaced by financial stagnation and mutual isolation, the world is watching to see whether the final chapter of the Sussex saga will feature the most ruthless execution yet of the shutdown pattern, the clinical disposal of a prince of the blood by the very woman he gave up his birthright to elevate, would mark a truly catastrophic ending. The ultimate resolution of the Sussex crisis will not come through a theatrical public courtroom battle or a dramatic parliamentary debate. It will be delivered through the quiet, irreversible imposition of constitutional reality. When Meghan Markle chose to broadcast the forbidden HRH styling on her digital platforms to revive her struggling lifestyle ventures, she failed to grasp a fundamental legal truth about her public existence. Unlike her husband, who was born a prince of the blood royal with a permanent place in British history secured by bloodline, Meghan possesses no inherent sovereign safety net. Her title as Duchess of Sussex is merely a courtesy style, a temporary gift granted by royal prerogative because she married into the House of Windsor. If that title is formally revoked through a targeted letters patent under a future King William, or rendered entirely toxic by King Charles III's non-affiliation decrees, her Hollywood brand will not simply lose a prestigious prefix. It will effectively cease to exist without the protective armor of the British Crown. She will no longer be a diminished celebrity icon, but will revert to Meghan Mountbatten Windsor, an ordinary American civilian competing in the hyper-competitive California market, one that has already shown clear fatigue with her repetitive grievance narratives. Her newly built brand now faces a catastrophic retroactive legal crisis. Western corporations and international investors do not pour millions into an ordinary lifestyle label run by a former actress. They invest in the exclusive illusion of royal access. By stripping away that sovereign connection, the palace leaves those corporate partners holding contracts based on what could be deemed material misrepresentation, almost certainly triggering waves of litigation that could wipe out her remaining financial reserves. The strategic brilliance of the response crafted by King Charles and Prince William lies in its reliance on financial starvation and institutional isolation, rather than loud public retaliation. The palace has understood that a noisy counterattack is precisely what the Montecito operation needs to sustain media relevance and its victim narrative. Instead, by offering nothing but icy silence while systematically severing her commercial lifelines in Hollywood, the monarchy has turned Meghan's own favorite tactical weapon against her. For years, those close to Meghan have described her shutdown mechanism, the ruthless ability to completely erase people from her life the moment their utility expired. Now she is discovering that a 1,000-year-old sovereign institution can execute that same mechanism with far greater precision and finality. The British monarchy is not fighting Meghan Markle. It is simply outlasting her. It is closing the massive iron gates of history, leaving her isolated in a Montecito mansion with a struggling jam brand, a downgraded streaming deal, and a husband who appears to be charting an independent path back toward his original family roots. The essential question the global public must confront is one of foundational truth. If the very origin story Meghan used to build her humanitarian brand, the famous tale of an 11-year-old girl single-handedly changing corporate America, could not withstand basic journalistic fact-checking and was later exposed by her own father as an embellished school project, then what exactly has the entire Duchess of Sussex phenomenon been built upon? That is the unsettling question her corporate backers are increasingly asking themselves as the summer of 2026 approaches. The magic trick has failed. The sovereign illusion has evaporated. All that remains is a Hollywood brand running on empty.